Hey, what's up, everyone, and welcome to the School of Personal Finance. This week, we're going to talk about Joe Biden's stimulus plan, what he's calling the Rescue and Recovery Plan for our country. So I'm going to give high-level overview, get into some details about it. I'm going to give you my thoughts about stimulus in general, how it helps our economy, how it might actually hurt our economy, talk about debt a little bit, and how all this stuff affects your money and your investments. All right, let's get to it. All right, let's jump right in. Now, if you didn't see his speech, I'll put a link down below so you could watch it. Put it on 2x speed and you'll get through it in 15 minutes, but it's good to watch. And the first item that he talked about in this speech was doing 100 million vaccine doses in his first 100 days. So this is 10 times more than what's currently been going on, and it's high priority for the Biden administration. And hopefully, I'm his biggest cheerleader on this one. Hopefully he could get it done because we need this country to go back to normal. So it'll be interesting to see how we'll be able to accelerate this and get vaccines in everybody's arms. The next thing he talked about was spending hundreds of billions of dollars to keep our schools open. Now, if you've watched any of my content, you know that I have 3 young children, and I am fully on board with this one. We need these schools open. We need them to be safe. We need our kids to be back in school. So I'm a big fan of this, and hopefully we'll be able to get it done. Some other important issues that he talked about with the stimulus plan is the SNAP program, keeping people from going hungry. He mentioned 43 million families that need those resources, so he's putting $3 billion towards that. Also making sure to keep state employees and emergency workers employed, as all these states are facing very difficult budgets right now. To issue more small business grants and small business loans like the PPP program and the EIDL grant and loan program. Also extending the pause on evictions and foreclosures right now for people that aren't able to pay their rent and their mortgage. He also talked a lot about infrastructure spending and clean energy, green energy, and that is the way of the future. He also talked about raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And then the big one for a lot of people out there is more stimulus checks. So what he's proposing is an additional $1,400 for everybody who qualifies for the stimulus checks. So now the most recent round of stimulus, the second round of stimulus, was $600 that was sent out just recently. A lot of people haven't even received it yet. And back in March of 2020 was the first round of stimulus where it was $1,200 per person for people that qualified. So as far as the qualifications, it's if you make under $75,000 and you are an individual, or $150,000 if you are married. So if you are below those income levels, then you should have been receiving these stimulus checks, and you'll be eligible for the next round of stimulus as well. So now an additional $1,400 to, let's say, a family of 5, I mean, that is a lot of money. So this includes adults and children. So if it's husband and wife and 3 children, you're looking at an additional $7,000 check that you'll receive from the government. Now, as far as the timing on this, it depends if this gets through Congress, but the timeframes that they're throwing out there is that it should be approved somewhere between, March, and the money will be going out sometime in April. And then the last point, which is very important to a lot of people out there, and that is extending the federal unemployment benefits, increasing it to $400 a week and extending it out. So that would help a lot of people out there right now that, are unemployed and don't have a paycheck coming in. All right, so now I wanted to share with you a little bit about my opinion and my thoughts about the stimulus package, some specific items in there, how it might affect our economy, how it affects different asset classes like the stock market or the housing market. And obviously, I'm not giving you any kind of investment advice. I don't know you. I don't know your situation. So I'm not endorsing anything that I talk about here. This is just going to be my opinion. But to start out with, there's so many people that are hurting right now that need these stimulus checks. So I'm a big fan of sending money directly to people that are big time in need because it helps tremendously. And as far as the stimulus checks go, it's difficult, right? You have an arbitrary number. You say that if you're making under 75 grand, or if you're married, you're making under 150 grand. So it's hard to really target it exactly where it's needed, because there are plenty of people who might be retired and all they live on is Social Security, but maybe they have millions of dollars in the bank. So they're going to qualify because their income is low, but they have a ton of assets, and they're not going to use the stimulus money. They're going to sit on it, or maybe, give it to family or whatever. So it is hard to really target. And I have some more thoughts on that, because there are a lot of people who are getting these stimulus checks that don't need it. So what do they do with the money? They invest it. So by investing it, maybe they are upgrading their house and they're buying a new house, or maybe they're just investing in the stock market, which keeps this stock market rolling up. Maybe they're just going to go out and buy some luxury products like at Apple or at Amazon or at these big companies that are doing killer numbers right now and are at record profits, and these companies' stocks just keep on going up. So by having these stimulus checks go out to the public, there are many people who need them just to pay their bills and to survive, but there's a lot of money that is flowing to many different places in this economy, and it is rising, it is lifting all boats. All these assets are going up in value. So the housing market, the stock market, it's just going to keep on inflating these numbers in these different markets. But you know who gets left behind? The people that do get left behind are the ones who need the money to pay their bills, to pay their rent, to get groceries and feed their family. They're not investing that money, so they have to spend it. So they don't have assets that are going up in value. So this is where we have the divide. We have the people who need this money to survive. They're not investing it. When it's all said and done, they're not going to have any of it left over, and they're still going to be struggling. Whereas you have people who maybe didn't lose their job, maybe they don't make a ton of money, so they still qualify for the stimulus, but they're still working, they're still getting their paycheck, they really haven't been that affected, and they're going to invest that money, and they're going to get richer and richer, and their assets are going to go up, and they're also helping to inflate other assets. And on the small business side, I mean, for some businesses, it's a worst case scenario. It's a disaster. I don't know if you've seen Dave Portnoy at Barstool Sports and the fund that he started and how he's raising money and donating money directly to these businesses that really just need the money to survive and get through this, and then they will be okay again. There should be many, many more businesses doing what he's doing. It's amazing to see even just the success that he's had so far. He's raising money from celebrities like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. People are donating money to this to directly help small businesses. So now the flip side to all of this money just being injected into our economy and our government borrowing at, record rates and sending cash out to everybody is that eventually somebody's got to pay the bill for this stuff. Our national debt has exploded. It is over $27 trillion right now. It has literally gone straight up over this past year. And yes, we could argue that we needed it to get us through this, and I agree with that, but that doesn't change the fact that at some point, we either need to grow our way out of it, which means having an expanding GDP, for the economy to be growing, for tax revenues to be increasing, and for our spending to go down. Eventually, these things, they do need to happen. Now, the main reason that a lot of people out there are not overly concerned with a $27 trillion debt and growing is because the interest rates are so low. So the interest that the Treasury pays on a 10-year bond is like 1% right now. So there's confidence that we'll be able to grow this economy, that the GDP will continue to grow, and that we will be able to service these debt payments and pay off some of the debt. And then as the economy grows, we have an expanding tax base, so revenue will increase. I'm sure that we're going to be raising taxes in the future, so there'll be more revenue from that as well. And we'll be able to start putting a dent into this debt and getting our GDP to debt ratio back in line. Now, the stock market has had a great run, and it is really priced, I don't want to say to perfection, but it is already anticipating us getting through this pandemic and coming out, looking great on the other side. So I think there is a risk to the stock market, especially over the next few years, just in case there are any hiccups. And once, the Fed maybe pulls back a little bit, or if we have any signs of inflation, which I think are a big risk right now. So the stock market, it's very hard to predict where the stock market is going to go in the future. And I don't pretend to be able to do that. That's why when we manage money, we want to have a very diversified portfolio, because we just don't know from one year to the next what is going to outperform what and where the market is going to go. So obviously a lot of it depends on your risk tolerance and what you're comfortable with and your time horizon. But, the market just had a great year. It could continue in the short term, but once we start to look out deeper, it's very hard to tell depending on so many different economic policies and, where we are at that point. And now the fact that the money supply is up like 25% from a year ago, that's the amount of money that is in our economy. I don't know how you can't be bullish on things like hard assets, things like gold and silver and homes and physical things that you could touch with that many dollars flooding the system. I feel comfortable having those things as part of my overall portfolio. Now, a big concern is definitely rising inflation, and that could happen as we start to come out of this pandemic and we go to full unemployment and wages start to go up and people start spending more and more money. We could see prices continue to rise. And if we have inflation that is higher than what is projected, it could really hurt stocks and put a damper on this economy. So overall, I know I was a little bit all over the place in this video, but I do still feel good right now about the stock market, about the housing market, about asset prices in general, because you know the old saying, don't fight the Fed. And the Fed has everybody's back right now. So they are printing money, they are throwing money into this economy, they are buying government debt, they are buying equities if need be, ETFs. So they have everybody's back, and you don't want to fight the Fed. And the government as well, they want to keep interest rates very low right now so they can continue borrowing at these low rates. There's a lot of uncertainty ahead, and that's another reason why it's so important to have a very diversified investment portfolio. So I talked about real estate, I talked about gold and silver and Bitcoin and the stock market and the bond market. All of these things make up a very diversified portfolio, and you don't know which one is going to outperform from one year to the next. We could have years where all of them go down and we all lose a lot of money on our investments. That is bound to happen at some point. All right, everyone, that is it for this one. Hopefully you found that video helpful. Please make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button. If you are not part of the community as of yet, go over and check out schoolofpersonalfinance.com. If you'd like to work with me as your financial advisor, go check out the different ways that we could do that. I will see you again next week. Thanks.